Welcome to Keep It Clean for Happier You. I'm your host, Nikki Tambulides. Together with my guests, we will help you reclaim your space at home. Yes, you can. We're here to help. Stay with us. We're back with our guest, professional organizer Susan Lavallo from Clutter Solutions, Caroline Caldwell from Caldwell Evolution, and Matt Beyer from Matt Beyer Organizing. Welcome. If I have learned one thing in this job, it's that when it comes to clutter, we're all far more similar than we think. Peter Walsh, it's all too much. I'm quoting your hero, guys. Okay, questions. What are the biggest mistakes people make after they are organized? Caroline.
The biggest mistake that people make after they get organized, so frequently they haven't changed their habits. So they purge, they find the right containers, they get everything set up the way they want it, but in fact their habits for how they live with their stuff haven't changed. So they keep dropping things on the floor, they don't fit things back in their homes, or they start to accumulate again, they start to purchase. So they don't change the habits that are going to support the organization.
Excellent. Susan, your thoughts?
Oftentimes when I work with people, they like the process of the big project. Like, that's kind of fun. It's visually very satisfying to see a big change in the space. But then once it's organized and it's decluttered, then they have to do maintenance. And maintenance isn't as much fun as the big project. So I see a lot of people that get messed up with the maintenance. And also that you need other people in your family to be on board with this if you're not living yourself.
That's
if you're not living by yourself.
A very good point.
So you really need to train your family on where things are now and what the new habits, what the new situation is, the new environment, because you can't just be maintaining this all by yourself if you're living with 4 other people.
Excellent. That's so true. Matt?
Yeah, great point, Susan. I find it has to do with an understanding of what organizing is, because quite often fitting is confused with organizing. And what I mean by that is that, I'll give you an example. It was a client I remember years ago who we were doing her kitchen, and I came to a drawer and I said, "What's in here?" She said, "Oh, no, that's fine. It's organized." I pulled it open, and it was business cards bound up in rubber bands. She didn't know what was in there, but in her mind it was organized. The problem is it's not, things are not findable. They're not accessible. She definitely can't find what she wants when she wants it. So that is a very important part of organizing. If it's just fitting, that's not enough. You've got to have those other qualities.
That's excellent. We can all relate because we have our little secrets. You know, preparing for this show, I have to share this with you. I have the habit of loving little packets of ketchup, soy, and all this.
Junk content.
Yeah, and I had a container in my refrigerator with all of them. And I said to myself, wait a minute, I am hosting a show about stuff, and there is this stuff that's been here forever, and I went and I removed it, and I'm going back to Caroline on this because I was at Whole Foods, and even though I got rid of that stuff, I picked up some more stuff. So I need therapy. I really do, because it proves what Caroline said. You have to change the way you're behaving to stay organized.
Yeah.
Next question, how do I start? Do I tackle my clothes first or my paperwork? I'm confused. Caroline.
Well, that is a very good question. And in the world of organizing, that's one of the $1 million questions. Many people have their own view of this. The strategy that I like to use, depending on the client's needs, I always start with the client's needs, but specifically what the client has identified as their goals. So there are going to be things that the client has identified as really big priorities. If I can, I always start with the bedroom, because the bedroom is often a place of sanctuary for us, especially in a household with children. The parent bedroom or the adult bedroom is often a place of sanctuary. And if that place can be attain that position of sanctuary, it often makes the individual more relaxed and less anxious to tackle the rest of the house, that they have a place that they can come to. But really, it's based on the individual's goals. If their priority is to get the toys off the rec room floor so that they can actually enjoy the rec room, then we're going to follow those goals and start there.
And I think the bedroom should be off limits.
But not from the organizer. Not off limits from the organizer.
No, you guys are welcome, but off limit to the kids. Susan, your thoughts?
I'd like to start with the entryway, because I think that the pathway that you come into your home really sets the tone for the rest of the house. And if you come to a space that's organized, that looks well cared for, a space that you love, that brings you joy, then the contrast of the rest of your house really becomes something that we can't live with, and it's a motivator to keep organizing. And also there's this whole thing about, you know, where you put your coat, your shoes, your backpack, your kids' sporting goods. All of that is part of the entryway that you use all the time, which may not be the front door, it could be the garage door or the back door, whatever that entrance point is. Having that organized when you're coming in your house, then it's organized also when you're leaving your house.
That's a good point.
So
that's
it
an
makes the
excellent
coming
point.
and going much easier.
Yeah. And I wrote a book. It's here. It's a Green Clean World. And one of the things I mentioned is the remembering bench that sits right next to the door, going back from what Susan is talking about. And as the kids go to school, they pick up their stuff for school. Your thoughts, Matt?
That sounds like a dedicated zone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Going back to what Matt was talking about.
Keep it limited.
Yes.
That and nothing else. It makes it a lot easier. So I should start by saying that when I meet with a client and we're reviewing a strategy, I always begin with a list of results they're looking for. So that is clarified. I mean, it's getting back to priorities, because it's different, for different people, but the results are what they're actually expecting to see at the end of the session. What is organizing going to look like to them? So that said, to answer your question, I'm a big fan of, wherever possible, pushing for the garage, and I'll tell you why. Because the garage tends to have a lot of quick wins. Either it's, we're definitely keeping this, or this is headed out, or I've been holding on to this too long, time to go. And you can clear out a lot of space rather quickly. And the advantage to starting with the garage is that then you clear up space to drain all the discards and donates from the rest of the house through the garage. And if it's especially good if you're doing the whole house, then you can back up the moving or the hauling trucks to the garage and take it away.
And also the garage has big items that, for example, a lawnmower that's not working anymore. So as Matt said, quick decisions that free up space.
Big space.
So you can park your car in the garage.
Protect, years of boxes of junk and their $50,000 investments aren't parked in the driveway unprotected.
Yes, thank you. Like, I have a friend that she has all the National Geographics in the garage. I said, donate it to a school, to an adult center, someplace. Why you have them and you park your car outside of the garage for the National Geographics that you are not going to read? So here we come to another interesting question. What is memory clutter? And I think we touched upon death and divorce and all kinds of stuff. Caroline, what are your views about memory clutter?
Well, it's really hard. It's emotionally really, really hard. Like, for me, when you say memory clutter, I immediately think of letters from an old boyfriend, or pictures from my mother's 24 photograph albums, or the 8mm film that we found 3 boxes of in my dad's condo when he died. So, there's certificates, life event certificates. There's all kinds of stuff like that. And it's hard. It's emotionally really hard to get through. There's often secrets, things that you didn't know about your family that you find as you get through some of these things, especially if you're clearing an estate. And it can be emotionally exhausting.
Draining, very draining, I can tell.
Very draining. And I would say, if people are sorting and having to organize and purge and sort memory clutter, don't be afraid to ask a friend to sit with you. Maybe not do it alone, depending on how emotional it is for you, and approach gently with a great deal of compassion for yourself.
Because I think at the end of the day, there are certain things, my father passed away, that I really can't let go. There are his letters, and I have a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine. She has cards of her mom. She was very close to her mom that passed away, and she can't let go of them, and she has them on display. They're not a lot, but to her, they're precious, and I find myself being the same way. There's certain things I can't let go. I mean, sorry, organizers. Susan,
right.
So
memory clutter.
I love that term, memory clutter. I've never heard that before.
I'm impressed.
Did you create that term?
I did because of my father. I was very close to my dad, and he passed away, and I can't let go of his letters and the pictures. I can't.
So I find with my clients that the memorabilia is the last thing that we organize.
That's a good point.
We'll organize all kinds of other things, difficult things, but that is always way at the bottom of the list. And the reason is because it's hard and it's so emotionally charged. But what I tell people is that those items are important, and you can't let go of them until you're ready to let go of them, unless you're in a situation where you're forced to. So if you're downsizing or there's some kind of extreme condition, sometimes people just have to let them go whether they're ready to or not. But hopefully people can wait till their own internal clock tells them, I'm ready to let this go now. But in the meantime, while you're keeping it, we want to know where it is. We want it to be clean. We want it to be in a place where it's not going to be damaged. We want it to be honored and respected. And that means we have to look at it. We have to box it properly. We have to label it. We have to know where it is.
That's a good point, because I do know a lady that she has very important letters and information, and she has it mixed up with the bills from Stop and Shop and the receipts from Stop and Shop, and it's like what Susan said. It's very important to separate everything and make a designated space, a respectable place for it.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen through the years, like, so many things get ruined.
Yes.
Because
yes.
it wasn't stored properly. So people are saying it's very important to me. I honor it. I treasure it. I care about it. But it was ruined.
Yeah. If you honor it, show it by having a designated space for it. Matt?
Totally agree. If you're going to keep it well.
That's a good one.
So I generally refer to memory clutter as keepsakes. That's sort of our category for it. I want to say I have a team of organizers where we work on projects, and they are all trained in the regret-free process. And what that means is, as we're reviewing stuff, and a client comes to an item and says, I should probably get rid of this. I just don't know if I'm ready. We're actually going to tell them, when in doubt, don't throw it out. And the reason for that is because nothing is going to slow down the process faster than having regrets. It's like, I can't throw this one out. I shouldn't have thrown that one out. Can we just slow this down? And the whole process falls apart. Really important to keep that momentum going. So all we ask our clients is, if you're going to keep it, let's just identify why we're keeping it. Do you consider it a keepsake? If so, it goes in the keepsake area. If it's display, it goes to the display area, etc. And that is not just shifting things from one pile to another. You are advancing the process, because when you come back to that collection of keepsakes, you're seeing it in a context. You're first seeing how much there is, and maybe that's not a problem. Maybe it is a problem. Maybe when you see, gosh, I didn't realize, whatever it is. I'm thinking I've got my collection of horse show ribbons. It's like, wait a minute, I didn't know I had this many. Maybe I don't need that many to retain that memory. But whatever it is, bring it together, and it helps the decision making. And I'd love to offer one final piece of advice in this, as you sort of funnel down on the keepsakes you're keeping. In my situation, both my parents have passed on. I don't have kids, So I've got all mom and dad's stuff in the basement, and it's a win. Do you ever feel like going through that? Never. So what I choose to do is on their birthdays and their death days and their anniversary, those are the times to honor their memory. I'll go through their stuff a little bit at a time. It's been a certain amount of time, and I'm a big believer that decisions are easier when seasoned with time.
Because I think it's painful when you're trying to jam up things in, and what Caroline said and what you guys here, Susan and Matt, are saying is so true. Caroline said, be gentle with yourself and have a friend. Mm-hmm. And I think Susan and Matt, what they're saying is, leave it last, Susan said, and Matt mentioned, just take your time and be with the stuff when it's a holiday, a birthday, to honor their memory. Because I think memory clutter, as Susan said, that is new. Because the reason I'm asking it, because I have a problem with it. I can't let go of certain things because of my attachment to my loved one that was very dear to me. And I don't want other people to get into my life, to tell me if I keep it or I let go.
Yeah.
I would say that absolutely, in my experience, it is the hardest thing for individuals to tackle. Absolutely the hardest, for sure. I mean, there's a reason why most of us leave it till last, as Susan said.
As Susan said, last.
Because if you start with that, people just get really discouraged, and they get decision fatigue, right?
And I like what Matt said, start with a list of results. So he starts from the back, coming to the top, to the beginning, because it kind of gives you an idea of where you want to be, where you want to get to, but you have an end point, so to speak.
There's a lot of different reasons to get organized. Choose yours wisely.
Yes. You're listening to Keep It Clean for Happier You podcast. To listen anytime, go to dirtdirtgoaway.com. Also, you can live stream online at radio1400.am every Saturday. Now, to motivate somebody, how can I overcome the feeling of being overwhelmed when I think of trying to organize myself? Caroline?
So I love what Matt said, so I'm gonna reiterate that. Start with the end in mind. People have different ideas of what organizing looks like or what the result would be. So have a really clear view of your result, have a really clear vision, and then work backwards and break it down into small steps. The single biggest way to manage overwhelm is to put something as a step that you can do that you know you can be successful. And I love, there's a thing going on Instagram right now where somebody's climbing up a ladder and they're showing that the next run of the ladder is showing up. As you walk through, the next step will show. So little baby steps, little baby steps, little baby steps, so that you can be successful and avoid that feeling of overwhelm.
That's a good one. And little victories, I think they end up coming to like motivate you, to inspire you, to make you to do more. Mm-hmm. As what we talked about, memory, of starting with sentimental things, you just shut down. You don't want to continue anymore. Susan, your thoughts, how to get motivated when you're overwhelmed?
So the thing to realize about overwhelm is it's a state of mind and it's a feeling, right? So it's not a physical condition. So even though we're in overwhelm, a lot of that is language and how we feel about the situation. It doesn't prevent us from doing something about it. And the one main thing in 24 years of doing this that I have observed is that people feel better when they're taking action steps. So we can talk about it, we could think about it, we could watch TV shows, we all have books, they can read our books, they can read magazines. There's a lot of conversation out there about organizing. But the thing that's going to make us feel better about our space is that if we take action, even if it's a small action, and being overwhelmed doesn't prevent us from doing that.
So I'm going back to what Susan said, which I love. It stayed with me for years. Start with your wallet. Start with something that you have control. Matt?
Well, we all agree that the place to start is with knowing your priorities. And the thing is, it can be kind of hard for our clients to recognize their priorities, exactly what they are. And I find a good way to do that is the magic wand test, to say, if you could wave a magic wand in this space, what would you see? And they're usually pretty slow at first getting started, and so you have to sort of encourage a little bit, and they say, I've always liked the idea of a calm Zen-like space. And all right, that's good. And would that treadmill with the laundry drying on it be part of that calm Zen-like space? Absolutely not. All right, then I think we're getting somewhere.
That's a good one. Yeah, go ahead.
I actually have a magic wand in my bag. I didn't realize anybody else used that, but I actually have
and I don't actually have the wand. I like that idea.
Because it's inspiring. I like that, Caroline. You have the actual wand. It's inspirational. You look at it and you say, gee, I have to take action. Nice. I keep repeating this because I love it. What Matt said that will motivate us when you look at the end game and coming back. It's extremely motivational to me. What is the best way to organize a pantry, a file drawer, anything specific? Caroline, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's got to be a way that works for you. There's no perfect way. Now, there are some basic principles. We're never going to put the heaviest item in your pantry up on the top shelf for fear of hurting yourself when you try and get it down. We're going to put heavy things down below, or the waist or lower. But there's no perfect way. So you need to do a way that works for you and a way that is intuitive for the way that you think, or the person that uses that file drawer or pantry the way that they think. So, if you're looking at bills to be paid, and I might call it bills to be paid, but you might say something like, pay this before I go to jail. You're going to know exactly what that is. It doesn't matter what it means to me. It matters what it means to you.
For the pantry during COVID, I have to share this with you guys. I bought a lot of stuff, like food, you name it. And suddenly I realized I'm overflowing with expired stuff, cans of that expired like 2 years ago. So finally I decided to clear it. But it was a process because I spent good money for it. Susan, your thoughts?
Well, this is where the magic of professional organizing really comes in. It's because every space is unique, because every person is unique, and they're dynamic of who they're living with. So there's no perfect way to organize a pantry. It depends on your situation. If you have little kids, you might want snacks within their reach, or you might not want those snacks within their reach. Yeah. Or maybe you want to set it up so that they can get their own, lunchbox every day and make their own lunch. If somebody has some kind of physical situation where it's hard for them to reach, that's going to tell you where things go. There's some general rules like things together. The things you use most often are going to be right in front of you, but it's always specialized depending on the family dynamic and who lives in your home.
Matt?
Yeah.
Thank you, Susan. That's a great point.
Although my team actually organized 2 pantries yesterday, I'm going to skip that one and focus on the file cabinet. I always start with paper management by looking at 4 essential stages. I call them running files, sitting files, sleeping files, and dead files. Now, it doesn't make sense to have a filing system when there's a lot of things that shouldn't be in there. That starts with the dead files, things that are of no value and should be tossed. Sleeping files are things you're keeping just in case. And when you've made that association, then you can say, all right, I can store these more remotely. Maybe they're in banker boxes. Maybe they're in an old file cabinet in the basement. Running files are things you want to make a point of acting on. I believe these should be out where they're more compelling. So that leaves the sitting files, which are current files that you might want to be able to find reliably. Start with that before setting up a filing system.
I love this. I have a quick question before we end. Not sure if I'm a collector or a hoarder. Caroline.
Well, hoarding disorder is a mental health diagnosis, and it has a very specific set of criteria. So in an individual with hoarding disorder, their space is not used the way it's intended. They have difficulty with accumulation, and they have a hard time getting rid of things. And their accumulation is a distress either to themselves or to the people around them. With a collector, if somebody who is a collector is curating their items on a very specific basis, so a collection increases in value not only over time, but because you take the lesser things out and eventually add valuable things out, so that the entire collection increases with value. And it's also often on display so that people can appreciate it, whereas in the hoarding disorder, an individual with hoarding disorder typically doesn't have people into their homes. They typically are a bit reclusive, typically, not always, a bit reclusive.
Susan, your thoughts?
Yes, you can go on the website for ICD, the Institute for Challenging Disorganization, and you can take a test for the hoarding scale and see if you're a hoarder or not. What I tell people about collections is if you want to collect something small. Don't tell other people that you're collecting it. Buy you all kinds of stuff, and that may not be what you want. If you really want to collect something that's going to be valuable, collect gold bricks.
Gold?
Gold. Collect gold. Gold bricks.
That's a good one.
Gold, silver. Those are
Because
wonderful things to collect.
Yeah.
I have a feeling you're not going to collect many of those. Matt, your thoughts?
Caroline and Susan covered the subject very well. I'll only add that I am very familiar with hoarding situations. We're not doing them anymore. They're very stressful. I mean, you take it home, and there's the endless emails and the phone calls, and coordinating with the health professionals. But I was part of the aftercare team on hoarding. I didn't do the show, but I worked with a couple that was on it, and it was a couple that had already had 19 truckloads taken out of their house, and it was still like a hoarder's house. And no, we don't say that. It's people with hoarding disorder. And his collection, to Susan's point about keep the collection small, it was plumbing equipment, storage unit after storage unit of it, those pods all filled up. It's a disorder, and it needs professional help.
Now, we came to the end of this segment of our show. Need to wrap up, but be happy. We'll be back next week, staying with How to Let Go of Stuff series, joined by our expert panel of organizers, all for happier you. Before we sign off, asking our guests for a gem, a quick tip. Caroline?
A quick tip. Start with a very small space that you can clear in about under 15 minutes, like maybe a table beside your bed or the front entrance or just a little coffee table. Start with a super small space and work on that for 15 minutes.
Small project. Susan?
Realize that organizing is a skill, not a talent. So anyone can develop a skill. It's just about learning how to do it and being repetitive with it. So people often call me and they say, oh, I don't have the organizing gene. Like it's something we're born with or we're not born with. That's completely not true. Anybody can get organized at any point in their life.
That's a good one. Matt?
All organizing systems should be designed to support your number one organizing tool, which is a clear work surface.
I love that. If you don't have a clear workspace, you can't even find your glasses, never mind your keys. My dad always used to say, where are my glasses, especially after he retired. I'm like, Dad, you're wearing them. Where are my keys? You have them in your hand. You have them in your, it's like you get so overwhelmed when your office space and the place you're working is stuffed with stuff. My quick tip is make your bed every day. We came to the end of the show working on more at Keep It Clean, like tips and tricks to get you started with clutter and cleaning, how to make every day an Earth Day, how to clean less, my very own 7 in 7, and my quick tip for today and every day, shoes off at the door. Bye for now. Oppa.
At Keep It Clean for Happier You, we'd love to hear from you. For your comments and questions, use contact form at dirtdirtgoaway.com or text Nikki, text only, at 203-581-3446. That's 203-581-3446. We will be here every Saturday. Tune in to Keep It Clean for Happier You podcast. You can live stream online at radio1400.am every Saturday afternoon at 1 p.m. and listen anytime at dirtdirtgoaway.com.